Andrew Broussard Watercolors. I'm Andrew Broussard. Today we're going to be looking at gouache, and we're going to just be practicing a little bit of figure sketching. And I have a Boldini painting that I'm looking at right here. So I'm just going to be working with gouache. I toned the paper slightly, then did a dry off. I'm going to use my burnt umber to kind of sketch things out and put things into place. For example, the top of the head, I'm going to put the bottom of the dress down in here, mainly because that's the cutoff for the camera. And then I'm just start putting things into place between this. Now, here, unfortunately, where I have this camera image set up, I do get a little bit of glare, so I might have to adjust some lighting, but it's interesting arrangement, and Boldini is definitely a master, so hopefully sketching and looking at his works will help me learn and become a fraction of the painter he was. Now, I marked the top of the head and the chin. I'm going to start shaping it. The neck, the top of the bosom. The dress comes out quite a bit, so we'll shape that out. The hair, the waist, the swirl on the dress, I'm just going to mark these guys out and try to get everything into proportion, and then I'll play around with color on top. This drops down a lot more, comes up high right there. Her shoulder's going to be in that range. It's going to come across, dress. And I have pretty much the Zorn palette laid out, though I did put a few other colors out with the gouache that I might reach for. I'm not sure, but we'll see what happens. Right now it's just making sure everything's set up the right way. Neck, her shoulder, her back shoulder would be about here. Then we have that drop. It would come down. Then we have, this is the two flowers, or corsages, I guess. I'm not really sure what the names are for the different, would the word be accoutrements for dresses? Dress. Let's get that shadow back here. That line in the wall back here. This comes in a lot more and then comes out. So I'm hoping that I can exploit the opacity of gouache to paint over these lines, which I have had work for me in the past with some portrait practice. And I should have said from the beginning that this probably isn't going to come out good, but I hope that it has some interest and it inspires you guys to practice and explore, or maybe just look into the painters that I'm mentioning. In this case, Boldini, Boldini. They called him the master of swoosh. That. Okay, so I think I kind of have it outlined, but it is a little bit all over the place. Let me take let's see, I'm gonna grab a flat brush just so I have other brushes available, mainly just so I can do background for this. So it's kind of a bluish purple. Now with the Zorn palette, I can take black and add a little bit of the titanium white, and that kind of cooled down color is a go-to for a replacement of blue. Like the black can replace a blue within the limited palette. But I did put out some blue, so I could grab that. But right now we'll just use this to play around with the contours a little bit. So it's kind of almost like that negative space painting. That's probably exactly what it is. It's just putting it in just to help shape what's going on. And I'll let it get darker down here for the shadow. And artistically, like, notice how there's dark down in here, even though it's not the same color. Like, it's kind of more of a purplish, and there is a dark down here with a little bit of red in it. Those were, I believe, put there to prevent the eye from going off the page, and just kind of shape things up. So let's put that in that fashion. Let's look up on top. I could actually mix in, let's do the ochre. That'll give me a little bit of a green. It's not really going to show up as a green, but it's meant to be red as one, but I'm not really mixing it and focusing too much on that. I'm just, like I said, just trying to do the contours around her. Then I'll do a dry off and we'll start playing around. All right, that's good enough. Let me set this right here. And I'm going to do a dry off. me grab a paper towel. I find that gouache doesn't wash that easily from the brush. But you want to go, well, but I still have paint on it. So, now I'll be honest, I'm not sure. Do I go for the flesh first? Do I go for the dress first? Do I put masses in? And I think that's what I might have to do, is put masses in. So I'm going to try to get a mixture going of a flesh tone. And I'll mass in her flesh. And I'll get that tighten. These were dried on the palette and I sprayed them with my spray bottle beforehand. I think fresh white gouache is what I'll need next time. I do have it out right here so I can pour some. And I'm going to use this to kind of mass in the flesh areas, and then we'll look at the dress. That should be enough to get this in. Let me change the contrast. That might help me better with the glare. Yeah, that's a lot better. Now I feel silly not having that like that to begin with. Okay, so the shoulder right here, it drops down a lot quicker. So I'm going to push back and forth, but unfortunately, since I'm using wet media, it'll probably blend into it. So this is still just kind of a learning process with the gouache for me. Okay. And I'm just going to contour the top of that dress. That back shoulder. I'll probably leave a little bit of that umber there to help with the shadows that'll come in place. Cheek. This is where the eyes are going to be. So I'm going to bring her hair down. Cheek. It's very close to the tone of that background, so let me mix just a dark, just to get that contrast and help it separate. So like I said, I'm more focused on us getting the proportion correctly, and then some tonality within her flesh. I don't know why I mixed that black right in that spot, but it is what it is. Okay, so we come down. This is the forearm on the one side. It's here, comes down, comes out some. This one, it's going to be dark right in this spot in the future with shadow. But for right now, it just comes out a little swoosh, and the hand comes out. How much effort we're going to put into the digits in the hand, I'm not sure. This is, like I said, I'm trying to get the basics in place. So let's push the outside of the arm back. Put that wall right there. And that's all the flesh tones we have, the flesh areas that we see. So let's put a dress in. I'm gonna grab vermilion. And I have cerulean blue here. I also have ultramarine blue. I haven't played around with those with gouache yet. That's just making mud right now. Let me wipe off this area on the palette. Let's start fresh. I'm thinking maybe like the kind of doing the violet purple that they have there. So ultramarine, vermilion. Okay, we get a darker purple. Let's lighten it up then. Okay. So we have the hip right there. I'm just gonna draw that shape in. We have this come in for the waist. And then we'll come over this with light spots and dark spots, so we'll push it in both directions. Okay, so we're just massing in this tone, this color. Now, earlier today I was playing around with glazing with oil paints, and ultramarine was utilized because it's a transparent, it has a more transparent tendency. And mixing this purple with the vermilion, with the ultramarine, I'm wondering if that's why I'm not getting the best coverage. It may just be the concentration of water versus what we're working with. It's like that, how it's a coat that she's holding. Okay. And while we're at it, why don't we mess in a little bit of, let's just use umber for her hair. It's gonna come in. I'm just gonna get the shape. Here. Okay, let's do a dry off. Now I'm going to look for a teeny brush, which I do not have. However, I do have one right up here that's teeny. So opening up a new brush. That's probably a great time for me to say, hey, if you're interested, I have a Patreon link down below. I'd love for you to consider supporting me, as it helps keep this channel going. And with the purchase of all these different supplies, there is also some exclusive content for patrons. It's also just a super cheap thing, but yeah, I would love for you to consider checking that out. And if you don't want to, that's totally fine. All right, I'm going to mix a little dark. I'm going to start, I guess, my way from top down. The eyes would be in this region. And it's going to look awkward. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to push it past an awkward stage, but I'm going to try. I'm going to start putting things in different locations. I'll probably wind up coming back in with darks, like for example the eyebrows aren't brown like this. I just want to start getting those features to start taking place. The mouth right there, the ear right here. And I'll use the corner of this flat brush to pull in the sides. And her ear would be in line with the nose, so it would be about here. I'll grab a little bit of black while I'm up here. Let's try it out. I'll start putting in these. Now, one thing I need to point out is I'm not sure the actual size of this painting, and here I am doing it in a, I guess, an 8x10 space, so it's just gonna be on the smaller side. Her face is more rounded, so I'm gonna push that out some. And that hair comes down right in here. It comes right in like that. Okay, and I'll come back to the face. I want to kind of work my way top down and then let some areas dry since we're doing wet and wet, and then top down, etc. We're going to look at creases and folds in the skin. Let's get more of a flesh tone. This is the receding back here. There's like a highlight right there. Then top of the shoulder bone. So this is that bone right there. We have that highlight right there. Highlight right in there. Okay. Arm. I'm gonna lighten it up. There's a curvature to the arm, so I'm going to use the purple. I'll probably use the purple or just the burnt umber. Either one of those will probably help kind of mellow it out to give me the curvature that takes place. Think of like a soup can. They show you the drawings based off of just a cylinder. It's kind of like that. Arm. Use the purple for the shadow on the arm right there. There's actually a dark shadow on the bottom side. I'll feed it into this as a little bit of experiment, see how dark we should go. Then I'll grab a little black just to help shape this. There is in that crease between the thumb and the pointer finger. This arm may be a little too long perspective wise. Okay, so we did kind of a top to bottom with flesh. Let's do a top to bottom with a dress, and then we'll go back through from top to bottom with flesh again. The reason I'm taking that approach is within painting, with landscape painting or anything, I don't like working an area too much and disregarding other areas, whether it's painting or drawing. I like to kind of work all throughout. Also, since it's a wet media, I want it to dry. I'm going to look for the dark shapes. I mix black with the ultramarine. I can mix the vermilion into it a little bit, I guess, to get the more purple aspect. The coat. Gestural. There's the stronger purple. Let's see if we can get that. There's like a pink area right there, so let me see if I can get the vermilion and this titanium white to get kind of that pinkish. It's more flesh tone-ish with this mixture, but we'll see. Okay, now let's try to get some pure white, just as highlights on this dress. Then we'll do a dry off and we'll work top to bottom with flesh. I'll play around with the dress and the coat and all that some more. Some more black. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I'm doing the same strokes as him, but I think looking at it and staring at it and at least trying to do that may help out in the very long run, very, very long run. So we'll see. Now here, where's one of the flowers are, it's like very pink. But I'm thinking that the pink that was used, so let's see if we can get it to show up in the camera. So you might be able to see it some. I think that pink helps it recede, where this is pulling forward. So that's something to keep in mind color-wise when you're choosing things. Okay, let's do our dry off and we'll look at flesh again. Actually, you know what we'll do? I apologize for being all over with this. Let's put the background in again. And then sharpen up the background edges. And then we'll look at the flesh. So a lot of different experiments going on this channel. Like I said earlier today, I was experimenting with glazing in oil paint, and I am thinking about taking some Chinese ink, India ink, doing a landscape kind of tonal sketch in it, and then kind of doing washes or glazing essentially with watercolor over it as an experiment, or I guess a tutorial, or see what people want to get from it. I have so many things that I want to try, and if there's things that I'm not thinking of, I'd love for you guys to say, hey, would you mind doing this? Or hey, why don't you haven't done a building painting in a while, or what do you think of this, or etc. Okay, so we kind of crisp up that. We'll do a dry off and we'll work top and bottom. Flesh, top, bottom, dress. Good enough. Let's get a little pink for her face. Let's mix more white. There we go. I think that's what we need. kind of put more life in there. I don't want to make it look like a clown, but it looks like that's the direction I'm headed. Try to put the eye shapes in. Okay, let's grab burnt umber. Okay. I'll come back to the face a little bit. Curvature of the shoulder, and it runs down so you catch a little bit of the back part. Not to grab. Well, I really want a lot of white right there. Let's really accentuate that spot and put that highlight. That highlight, that, bring that chin shape. More dark. Let's look at her arm. Probably, yeah, more of a highlight. One thing that I never really truly, well, there's a lot of things I don't truly understand yet, but the contoured shape of an arm like this, where it's dark on the outside, lighter on the inside, right, to get that curvature shape. I always wonder, like, how do you prevent it from looking too linear and too much like a can of soup or a cylinder? Just never quite sure yet. But here it kind of has that effect, but I wonder if it's not really a spot that we're focused on, so maybe it doesn't matter too much. Okay. You can focus a little bit more on the flesh before we move on to more on the dress. Let's put little dots for the darks of the eye. I guess then we can even draw in portions. And I'll come back in with a light in those spots. Let's see how we're looking. Oh, hey, how's it going? Somebody's in the live chat, and they said it looks so cool. Thank you. I'm looking at a Boldini painting, I believe Italian, from probably the late 1800s, early 1900s, and I'm utilizing him to learn figure painting. Usually we're doing landscape painting or building painting, things like that, but just working on broadening the horizons. And what this is, it's gouache, which oddly enough, even though we're doing Italian painter who painted it in oils, gouache I think comes from an Italian word meaning mud or muddy, and it's an opaque watercolor, so it's not ground as finely, and it kind of helps cover itself more. Usually we're doing oils or pen and ink on this channel, but gouache I think would be good practice for this because it has some of the properties of oils with the opacity. Oh, that's way too much. I always have to be conscious of like the neck areas and all that, because if I show a painting to my mom, I'll send one on Facebook or something. I'll be like, hey mom, check this out, and she'll be like, oh, you gave her a beard, and I'm like, come on mom, really? But I do appreciate that type of criticism, because if she sees it, that means other people see it, and you need to, be aware of that stuff. This is ultramarine with that vermilion mix. So pretty much to the Zorn palette, which is just black, white, vermilion, and yellow ochre. For this one, I've added ultramarine to kind of get more of a purple. I think there is a potential to get a purple from the original palette with the black and the vermilion, though that is more of a burnt umber type color. So, but I watched this gentleman, Upari Artist is his name, on YouTube, do that. He's been exploring that palette a lot. I added burnt umber to my palettes. It's as a convenience, as a drawing color when I put things in the beginning. And I find it really helps out a lot. But right now I'm just taking this purple, and I can darken it, I can lighten it, and just trying to accentuate the darks in the picture, and then I'll come back with white and accentuate the whites. Once again, with Boldini, he's nicknamed, or was nicknamed, he's no longer living, I don't think, I'm pretty sure he's passed. He was nicknamed the Master of Swoosh because of the movement that he had in his brushstroke. And I could only dream of emulating that. But like I said, I think after lots and lots of practice and study of his work, that'll start taking place. And that's a good way to learn art. If you, for example, for landscapes, I'll take the painters, the American painters of the 1800s, and on the YouTube channel we have time lapse, or we have full time videos of sketches of looking at Hermann Herzog, who was a German-American painter, Jasper Francis Cropsey, Thomas Moran, who else? There's one or two others that we've done. And by doing that, it allows you to study and see what they did compositionally and what solutions and problems they had in their painting. Here, it's getting me to look at what Boldini emphasized in the figure structure. For example, that the shoulder shadow right there, that highlight on the neck, which I have to come back and do a little bit more. The color choice on this rose, which I don't have that color. It's probably like an opera rose color, I think. The only reason I know that is that one of my coworkers has been talking about opera rose for flower paintings. But once again, I'm not like a art teacher or anything like that. I teach math and physics. It was just talking art with somebody who did art on the side as well. So what I'm trying to do is mellow this out back here to help it recede back into the picture plane. I'm going to grab a whole bunch of Titan. And really swish that. Now he has so many folds and stuff in here, and I haven't studied like done any clothing studies or anything like that for ages. We did that in college with still lives and all that, and the drapery that would be behind a nude model or something like that. It's been quite a long time since I've done any of that. I have mentioned how we have been kind of slowly looking at the Bridgman's guide to figure drawing, and there is a section at the very end which has to deal with the folds in cloth. So that'll be fun when we eventually do that. Like I said, a lot of different experiments and projects happening on this channel. Let's see where we're at now. So I'm just looking through the camera lens. I can grab a little bit of Titan. Now, people say don't use like pure white for the eyes, and I'm not, because my palette's kind of dirty to begin with, and the brush is kind of dirty, so I'm really not too concerned about that. That adds a little light in the eyes. I'm not sure if that shows up in the camera. Okay, so we want highlight right here. Let's get that little highlight right there. Highlight here. Arm. There's a highlight along this arm. Going into the thumb. Is that too white? It might be. Yeah, too light. I've been kind of pushing that spot back and forth today. I just want to put it too black. I'm not really focusing a lot on her hand. In fact, I omitted the fingers. I'm kind of just putting the masses in. Let's grab a little bit of strong black. So gouache does seem like a viable way to study this, because sometimes I don't want to use oil. Sometimes I don't have enough canvas. Etc. Let me do a dry off. I might finish and leave it at this. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Well, I hope you all enjoyed. Please like, subscribe, follow. I'll be back. I don't know if I'm going to come back on tonight and do some more painting, but I'll definitely be around tomorrow with more painting. Y'all have a great day, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Yeah, we'll zoom in. All right, bye.